Hey guys, thought I'd try this instead. Hey guys, thought I'd try this instead, see if it works a little bit better. Which, any of you were watching, that laptop just doesn't cut it. Hopefully you guys are coming back. We'll see. Since that was not the ideal stream that I was looking for. But, gotta try things with OBS and see what happens. I'm sure some of you were probably still in that other stream, so maybe you'll get here, maybe you won't. Hey, there we go. Who we got? Who's with me? Alright, hopefully the rest of you guys come back. I was just trying OBS and see if I couldn't get it to work on that laptop. It was just not cooperating at all. Hey, Solid Gamer. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. I'm hoping some other folks will drop by. Hey, Andrew. Yeah, I switched back to my the old cell phone because, it just wasn't working. So hopefully some more folks will come back by. I know you guys were watching me kind of mess around with OBS with the delay and the craziness that was going on there. Yeah, I gotta figure out the bugs, man. That's it. That's the ticket. But I did thought I would give my I appreciate that, Solid Gamer. Did thought I'd give my perspective on the outcome of the Kavanaugh vote. I mean, it's one thing for somebody like Jordan Peterson to say, dude, just drop out. You got confirmed, I just drop out, which is crazy. You don't go through a fight over 3 months with your family and then turn down the position that you get voted into. That's not sensible at all. Andrew, do you want to throw an invite in the chat? I would appreciate it if you could. Both the Unbearable and the app. That would be appreciated because I know I interrupt the stream if I could do that. So it's cool when you guys get to do it. I appreciate it. Of course, you guys can get a gander at the ducks during this stream as well, and we'll see how this one goes. But as some folks start making their way in, here's the ducks over here, guys. I know it's been a while since you've seen them. There they are. No, seriously, this whole Kavanaugh thing is crazy. The country has gotten turned upside down. And yeah, thanks, Solid Gamer. It's really just people losing their minds. They don't have. I really feel like it's the soap opera style drama that everybody wants. It's the whole live reality show type action that Everybody's waiting for the next controversy and drama to come out. Here, there's a duck up close, guys. There he is. There's the duck. Hey, Kikia. Welcome. Trump was a reality star. Oh, yeah, no kidding. The Democrats like drama. They like controversy. They like, there's a scandal. So let's bring out as much information as we can about this scandal. Instead of finding out what the truth is, let's see how deep the scandal goes. Let's see if we can't turn it into a soap opera drama. That's really what this was. It was a soap opera. Everybody was waiting for the next shoe to drop, like next time on the Kavanaugh hearings. It's like, no, it's not supposed to be like that. Hey, today's a huge victory. Today is a huge victory. And I feel wrong. I feel like they're wrong that Kavanaugh is not the conservative that everybody thinks he is. I think he's more moderate, like everybody would like to believe. That's the reality. I mean, everybody thinks that, yeah, he's probably going to be a Kennedy. He's probably not going to go one way extreme or the other way extreme. The man reads the Constitution. The man has a 25-year-old Constitution in his pocket. I want somebody that's a constructionist, that sticks to what does the Constitution say word for word. Stick to the context. I mean, the context of the Constitution says that the government is to defend individual liberty, not take individual liberty, but defend it. Not protect us from ourselves. The government is not supposed to be mommy and daddy. That's never what they were intended for. The government is to aid us when companies try to run you over. They're supposed to protect the individual. That was the whole purpose. The Supreme Court was never intended to change the laws. They are to interpret the laws. They interpret the laws based upon our Constitution, which there's there's only less than 3% of Americans that have sworn to uphold and defend the Constitution. But with those groups, we intend on defending the Constitution, not the people that, not the president. Ultimately, that's not the goal. Not the senators and congressmen. Not the Secretary of Defense or the Secretary of the Navy or Secretary of the Air Force. That's not the purpose. Well, and right, with Ginsburg, I don't want the court to go solid. I don't want it to go left. I don't want it to go right. I want it to interpret the laws as written. I don't want them to read into laws. I want them to read them based upon the Constitution. There's, they were not intended to change things. That's not the purpose of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is to tell Congress either you wrote a really good law or it's a really poorly written law and try again. That was the purpose of our Supreme Court. And now that we have Justice Kavanaugh, not Judge Kavanaugh anymore, Justice Kavanaugh, that can actually happen. The court is back in session, and with only 8 having sat on the court, There's not that tie vote that's necessary to decide cases until Justice Kavanaugh was confirmed today. And as soon as he is sworn in, he can take his proper seat on the Supreme Court, where he's meant to be. And you're right, if Amy Coney Barrett is to be nominated, should Ginsburg either retire or die, or what happens in that situation, if Trump manages to get 3 nominations, it's to be, I want a court that's constructionist. I want a court that interprets the Constitution in context. Not that the Second Amendment was based off of, oh, well, same way that they view the printing press. It wasn't about muskets. It wasn't about cannons. It wasn't about spears. That wasn't the purpose. Yeah, just do exactly, Andrew J. They are sworn to protect, defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That's it. Straight up. They submit to no one. That is not their purpose. Their purpose is to uphold the Constitution as written. The Democrats would have you believe, well, you know what, it's all about abortion, or it's all about pre-existing health conditions, or it's all about, you name it, it's all about the environment. That was never the intention. That was not the intention of the Constitution. That was never the intention of the Supreme Court. That's not the purpose. Exactly. Those are not rights. We don't have a right to a clean environment. That's not a right. Now, are we to properly manage our environment in which we live and be responsible for it? That's called being a caretaker. But that's not called being its sole caretaker. Because even when even when folks mention the forest fires of California, the worst thing that people did in California was not cutting down the trees. Managing the forest appropriately, cutting down the trees, letting fires burn when they're allowed to burn. Well, exactly, Solid Gamer. The same thing, abortion. Abortion was not written into the Constitution. That's an interpretation that came later. That's a controversial issue. That's an issue that some folks will stand on. Well, what about rape and incest? Well, that's a completely separate issue altogether. I mean, some folks will buy into that's the justification for abortion. No, I don't agree with that. Oh, tuna's illegal in Kansas? Well, don't know about that issue. Can't speak to it. But at the end of the day, our individual freedoms are what's most important. Our land rights are what's important. Our freedom of assembly is important. Those first 10 amendments are extremely important, and yet they are infringed upon on a regular basis. And yet that's the purpose of the Supreme Court, is to say, hey, guess what? Individual freedoms are being infringed against. It's not right. And that's when even the nuns, when they were talking about the use of contraception case, they were right for bringing that case. The baker in Colorado, he's right for bringing that case. His individual freedoms are being infringed upon. And it's up to the Supreme Court to ensure that his freedoms are protected. So with Justice Kavanaugh taking his seat, That's one more justice to ensure proper interpretation of the Constitution. Something else that kind of came out of this whole thing is, guess what? We have an election. Midterm elections are just a mere 3 weeks away. And Democrats always remind us that elections have consequences. Well, right now, that's the thing. These consequences that happen due to the Kavanaugh hearings, the Democrats should feel the results of consequences, you know? But Andrew J., your vote makes a difference. It really does. These senators and congressmen should know that their shenanigans will not be tolerated. That's really what it comes down to. That shenanigans regarding Supreme Court justices, and kind of the most disappointing part of this whole process has been with the Democrats stating, well, what about this scandal? What about that scandal? Well, what about their scandals? What about their involvement in sexual harassment, sexual assault, inappropriate behavior towards minors? They're not owning the fact that they have scandals in their camp too. Nobody's squeaky clean in this situation. They had scandals and they weren't willing to own them. Oh, yeah, that's the thing, Andrew. It's not for me, it's not a matter of whether somebody has a D or an R next to their name. Where do they stand on the issues? That's the real deal. Where do they stand? What do they stand for? Why are they serving in the House or the Senate, be it in the state that they live, or be it in our nation's capital? What do they stand for? Do they believe in values? Do they believe in the Constitution? I mean, it's funny. I do end up voting for a Democrat here locally. And that's weird. It's weird for me, but the reason why is they support our local military. That's the reason. That's the purpose. He supports the military and has made huge gains as far as supporting the military. Do I agree with all of his politics? No, I don't agree with all of his politics. I don't agree with all his stances on all issues. But you're not going to agree with the stances on issues of some of the Republicans or some of the Democrats. You're not. It's just not a thing. And if you agree with everything that they stand for, you need to question that. Because there are some areas that some folks feel blue, some folks feel red. I mean, there are some Democrats that'll vote on some liberal issues, but they'll be really conservative when it comes to like economic policy. Or really conservative. There are some Democrats that will not support abortion. There are some Republicans that will heavily support abortion. Or heavily support increased taxes. So you have to be aware of what do they stand for? What is their purpose for serving a government? Because at the end of the day, that makes a difference. But same thing, ballot measures are coming up. Ballot measures in the next 3 weeks are a huge issue. In my state of Washington, there's an issue regarding semi-automatic rifles is the issue that's facing my state. It's 1639 is the ballot measure, and what it supports is that you need to lock up your weapons unless they're on your person. And in addition to that, if your weapon is stolen, they will prosecute you for whatever crimes that are committed with that weapon. No, Maddie, I don't smoke any of that stuff. I have a good job, so I don't partake in that. But I'm not opposed to others that think that it's a good idea. I mean, that's totally on them. That's why it's an individual right to choose what they want to do. If that's what they want to do, then I'm not going to tell them they shouldn't. That's on them. Yes, you're held liable for a stolen weapon if this ballot measure were to pass. If somebody steals your pistol and then goes and shoots people, they're going to claim, well, you didn't lock it up. You didn't keep it out of their hands. Even though you're licensed and it can be in a safe. They steal your safe, they bust open your safe, and they go use it, they're going to hold you accountable for it. That's why this law in this state needs to fail. And one of the biggest issues with this law was when they presented it for signatures. In this state, you're only allowed to put one issue, one subject in the ballot measure. There are 17 issues in this ballot measure. That's a problem, because that means they're not following their own rules for presenting a ballot measure to the people. And the Seattle Supreme Court, the state Supreme Court, did not see an issue with it. They said that's not unconstitutional for the state of Washington. They said it's totally acceptable for this to go through, and they'll evaluate it and rule on it after it passes. The issue I have with that is that if the state Supreme Court doesn't take up the case, then it stands as is. Then that ballot measure gets to exist without challenge. I have a problem with that, because if they say that your particular lawsuit has no standing, when you challenge the law, then they don't have to hear it, which means it stands as is. So I recommend everyone, if you haven't registered to vote, you need to do it. You need to get that done. Because in my state, ballots are being mailed out now, and they're due by that Tuesday in November. So ours, everyone can have that's the crazy part about politics in this state, is that someone could present a valid case for a law not passing, for a ballot measure not passing, and because we're a mail-in state, the ballots could already be mailed in. And if somebody brings up an argument against that law, well, exactly. That's the thing. You got to fill out a police report, but still the onus is on you if your weapon is stolen. Should this law pass, this will be the second law that counters freedom, that counters the Second Amendment in the state of Washington. They're just pushing for it. They're pushing to eliminate that individual freedom. And that's the first of many that they're going after. I mean, Antifa has free reign. The homeless have the ability to live underneath a bridge or an overpass in downtown Seattle. And that's considered their home. They can pile up trash, they can discard their needles, and there's no prosecution. There's no desire for them to get off the street. There's no incentive. Because if you're allowed to just live on the street, then that's what they do. They accumulate bicycles. I mean, I witnessed it the last time I was downtown. You know, I was downtown Seattle, and there's tents, there's bicycles, there's trash, there's lawn chairs. I mean, it's communal living. That's what it is down there. And you can't walk through a park. Thanks, Kikia. You can't walk through a park without discovering needles. That's as bad as Seattle is getting. They're getting the needles. They're handing them out. The heroin is just free flowing down there. Pretty scary stuff. Oh, exactly, Nero. It's hobo communism. That's yeah, they do. Oh, solid. Yeah, I believe it. I believe it, man. That's not surprising at all to me. It's one. Yeah, they it's communal living at the expense of our tax dollars. That's really what it is. They want to live off our tax dollars. They want their free check. They want their free heroin. They want the ability to cook their meth in their RV trailers. That's what they want. So, all right. So we've hit nearly 30 minutes on this one, guys. So with that, maintain your Second Amendment skills. Practice. Actually carry. Actually maintain. Make sure that you guys are situationally aware. Because those groups of protesters are everywhere right now. And the Antifa guys are everywhere right now. So be aware of your surroundings. You may not realize that they're there. So also, register to vote. If you haven't registered to vote, get out there, get it done. Because these midterms are important. These midterms make all the difference in the world. Because believe it or not, the Democrats, if they were to take over the House and the Senate, admitted they would impeach Justice Kavanaugh. And if they get their way, they would attempt to impeach President Trump. We don't want this to happen. That's not America. And that's not how we operate. So with that, guys, support the second, uphold the first. And everyone, you have a great weekend. Thanks for supporting me. And if you want to drop some donations or whatever, it's paypal.me/veteranbear. All right, guys. Make sure you support Steve Pender, Field of Bears, Big Drum Bear, and have a great night. Bye, guys.